Tuesday podcast. It's your girl Danie, and on this week's episode, I wanted to discuss the movie Malcolm and Maria. Have you guys watched it? I hope you have. I hope you support it. It's on Netflix, and the premise of the movie is about a couple, and the guy is an actor, producer, and his woman is, I don't actually know what her career choice was or was attempting to be, but she seems to be struggling, trying to find her way in life, in the career field and all of that. And they have a very toxic relationship, to say the least. So hopefully you guys have watched it, and if not, definitely watch it after this episode so we can have a conversation about it, because wow, it is a doozy, to say the least. And it made me think about how relationships are these days, and the things that people consider acceptable, the things that people consider normal, or I guess like growing pains and things of that nature. But that movie definitely had some moments where it's like, wow, it's deep. It got real deep. So, like I said, hopefully you guys watched it and tuned in. And I'm just going to give my take on the episode, and I'm going to give my take on the movie and the things that I pointed out, and ask you guys a couple questions at the end that I would like for us to discuss further, in the comments and stuff like that. But my first point was that Malcolm was very self-centered. And I feel like when you're dating a person who is that way, that is not something that they show you. I mean, that is not something that they hide from you. It's like, it's kind of just within them. So if you choose to date a person like that, you kind of know what you're setting yourself up for. Like, he was very self-centered, and I don't know. So the whole concept of the movie was like in black and white, and they're having this argument, and basically it was like his movie premiere, and it was time for him to go up and say his speech, and he forgot to thank his lady, which is Marie. So I guess she pointed it out to him at some point throughout the night, throughout the event and things like that. But she told him, like, it's okay. Let's continue on with the night. But once they got home, honey, it was a completely different situation. And for the most part, she was pissed, okay, as she should be. And she was being kind of passive aggressive about, I guess, her feelings, because she went home, made him some dinner, some mac and cheese in a box, which I was like, ooh, okay. But I guess at 1 o'clock in the morning, it's acceptable. But we ain't doing no box mac and cheese. But box mac and cheese is pretty good. I digress. So he's in his high. He's in his element. He's high. He is coming off his premiere. He's feeling great about himself. He's feeling great about the night. He's feeling great about the feedback that he's been receiving from the critics and from, the people who were in attendance, and, his peers, his castmates, all of that. And she just has this blank stare, this blank appearance. She's just like so unattached to his happiness. She was very unattached to his happiness. So he's sitting there trying to figure out, like, we're supposed to be on this high together. What's your issue? And he's trying to figure out different things that happened throughout the night that may have triggered her to act the way she's acting. And she finally said, "You forgot to thank me." And that's the part that I was like, wow. Now you have to realize this whole movie is just them talking to each other in black and white. That's the entire movie. It's the conversation, the toxicity between the two of them, the arguments, the making up, the way that the sexual tension aroused from the arguing. It's just like, it was a lot going on. It was a very, very deep movie, in my opinion, anyway. So, yeah, he's on his high and he's trying to just live in a moment. He's feeling the kind of way, I'm sure. Drinks were flowing at the premiere and all of that. And she just sitting there like, you forgot to thank me. You literally made sure you thanked everyone else. But you forgot to thank the one person who's been riding it out with you, who's been, reading your scripts and manuscripts and all of that for years and over and over and over again. And you forgot to thank me, of all people. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, I felt sorry for her. Like, sis was mad. And she very well should be. Like, you only get one premiere, especially your first one. And we're supposed to be on this high together. Like, she's dipped up in her, not Sunday's best, but whatever the equivalent to going out to a premiere best outfit is, and was there to support her man. And when it's time to acknowledge her, homeboy forgot. He forgot about her. And I was just thinking about, like, that, how would I have reacted if I was in that situation? Like, of course, like I said, going back, she didn't really make a big deal out of it during the premiere or, at the after party. But once they got home, she just like, she was over it, and rightfully so. See, I'm also the type, I'm not going to, like, embarrass my man or cause my man distress while we're out in public. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until you and I are alone and by ourselves, and we'll address it then. But she wasn't really trying to address it. She was just brushing it off. So I think that's the part that frustrated him the most. So anyway, she finally decides to tell him, you forgot to thank me. This is how I feel about it. And this is when it gets really, really toxic. I mean, he's spewing names at her. She's spewing derogatory comments at him. They end up telling each other, like, all the things they can't stand about each other. They hate each other. Well, mainly him was saying, like, I hate you to her. And he was, like, just bringing up all of the times that he was there for her, trying to suffice or, have some leverage with trying to get a break from the situation that they was in. Like, give me a break. Like, I've been this guy for you through all of the things that you've been going through. And, like, I mess up one time and it's like the end of the world. But, I mean, toxic. They were just cussing each other out, just saying really, really mean things to each other and name calling. And apparently he was unfaithful at some point in a relationship. She was on medications. She couldn't perform sexually. She was just in a bad place with her depression and mental health and all of that. And I just felt like at a time when two people are vulnerable like that, why would you choose to bring up these things that will hurt your spouse? And it's like, it really made me think, like, this is how people communicate in relationships, and it's scary. Like, pettiness, like, you're going to say this about me, so I'm going to say that about you. And just going back and forth and just, like, piling on the insults. And it's like, damn, that's pretty toxic. And watching it in this film is like, wow, this is really how it is sometimes in relationships. Like, I feel like most of us have probably had that type of relationship with somebody at some point in our lives. And, yeah, I feel like it was so much going on in this movie. I really want you guys to check it out. But it was very powerful to me, in my opinion. I watched it twice because I knew I wanted to watch it, but I also wanted to make sure I hit on a lot of points and wanted to get some content so I can discuss it here on the pod. And it was so much going on. I just want to know, like, part of me felt like she was being selfish for the way she was acting. But then the other part of me is like, well, she gave him his moment at his premiere in person with everybody else. So was she being selfish, waiting until she got home to tell him what her issue was or why she was unhappy? Because, I mean, she gave him his moment, but it's like, part of me is like, Dad, because she had waited to the next day let him stay on his high, let him have his day, and address it another day. Because at the end of the day, it's still, he was still in his moment. And I struggle with that, thinking like, dang, how would I have handled that if it was me? Would I had addressed it when we got home, or would I have waited until the next day? I for sure wouldn't have addressed it in public, as I said. I don't roll like that. But I also know some women who just, if they feel in the kind of way, they don't mind making a scene. They don't mind like putting their guy on blast. And it's like, I don't move like that. I'm already as private as it is anyway, and I don't be wanting people in my business. Like what we go through that's toxic or negative or any type of issues me and my guy are having, the world does not need to know that. The social media world, our friends, unless it's something like I really need some advice on or things like that. But it's like, you got to keep those things between you and your spouse, which she did. So I can appreciate that as a woman, because they could have painted the narrative like she was this mad black woman, but they didn't. She was real chill. She was just like, he was in his glory, and she was just like very nonchalant, not really giving him, the support and the love that would probably have come from, a night like that. And then at one point they were going back and forth and being so mean to each other, but then it got sexual. So I was just thinking, like, it's a lot of relationships and situations I've been in, even where it's like, I can't stand you, but I want you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, why do we put ourselves through that? Is it because, the situation is going to pass and you and your spouse is going to work through whatever the issues are? Does that make it acceptable? Because she continued to say, like, I'm still not over it, or I still have more things to say. And he was like trying to kiss on her, touch on her, and all of that. He was just like, I'm just tired of fighting. I'm just tired of fighting. And sis was just like, but I'm not. So what do you guys think about that? Like, should somebody have softened and just... I feel like men always expect a woman to be the one who softens or decides to take a backseat approach to how they're feeling, just to satisfy a man. And sometimes it's very hurtful, and it's very annoying, and it's frustrating, because it's like, why do us women always have to be the ones to ignore our feelings or set aside what we're feeling just to, be the woman in the relationship? Sometimes we want to feel what we're feeling and work through it and be okay with being upset in the moment. But it's a lot of men out here who don't allow for that to happen. So what type of communication style does that really bring into the relationship if two people are expecting different things in different moments? So I was just thinking, it's a really good movie. I hope you guys watch. Like I said, been saying it again. I want to talk about it because I wrote down a lot of stuff. Like, that movie was it just opened my eyes about a lot of stuff. And then I'm like, is it because he was a celebrity that he felt entitled to ignore her feelings for the night? Now, you got to realize, so these roles are being played by Denzel Washington's son and Zendaya. Those are the two main characters. So I felt like they both did a really, really good job with the acting. I felt like it was real and raw and relatable. And I was quite impressed with the movie. But I also was wondering, like, can you truly love someone who speaks to you that way when they're feeling hurt? Because you can tell it's not a situation where this is the first time that they've had a big blowout. And she even, in fact, said in a movie, like, I think what was most hurtful for her was that she feels like the character that was played by his leading lady in the movie was based off of her and her life and her struggles and situations. And he was like basically telling her to humble herself, like, this is not about you. But then he kind of admitted later on in the argument that she had some influence on it. So if this person has kind of given you your premise of your movie and basically giving you your content that you needed to produce this body of work, how could you not thank them? You know, how could you not acknowledge this person when it probably mattered the most? So it was deep, y'all. I'm just wondering, like, yeah, can you really, truly, can a person who's so savage and mean and disrespectful when they're unhappy or in a state of disappointment really love you if they talk to you the way they do? Like, if they talk to you in a foul way? Like, if they talk to you in a foul manner, is that love? Or is it just like a relationship of convenience at that point, and y'all just kind of like riding out the wave and just going through the motions of the relationship? Because they did show a couple snippets in the movie where I think they wanted us as the watchers of the movie to think that she was going to leave, but she never left. So for those of you who did watch it, I don't know if you picked up on that part too, but I said, you know, they made it seem like she was going to leave in certain points, like leave him, and she didn't. And it was an interesting movie. And I just want to know, like, do y'all think that the character, if you've seen it, do you think that the character was based on her? Based off of the things that she went through? Now, I think it would have been better if they kind of showed us the premiere, like if it would have started that way. Like them actually at the premiere, like watching the movie on screen or something like that, so we'll know exactly what was happening in the film, so we can kind of get an idea of why she felt the way she felt. But it didn't start that way. So I'm just curious, like, why do people stay in toxic situations like that, where a person is so verbally disrespectful and abusive to you, yet you still continue to stay? Because they beat you down, they tear you down, and they say things that they know is going to hurt you to your core. Why do you continue to stay with a person like that? Like, why do those relationships not end? Or why isn't somebody, not going to say smart enough, or someone strong enough to say, you know what, this is not normal behavior between a man and a woman who love each other, and just gracefully bow out? That's the main thing that I got. Well, the main question that I was wondering from that movie. Because like I said, even at the end, they really didn't make up. They kind of just decided that they both were like exhausted from the arguing. And he has his opinion, she has hers. And we're just going to take a little bit of time apart, meaning separate spaces within the house. And it ended like him waking up in the bed by himself and like frantically looking for her. He's looking all around the house. She's nowhere to be found. And he finds her standing outside by the pond or the lake or whatever type of body of water it was. So I was like, so after all of that, she continued to stay. And it's like, why do, on both ends, like, why do men and women continue to stay in toxic relationships like that isn't really good for your mental health? Is it because the sex might overweigh, or the sex is more intense, or the sex is so good that I'm willing to not ignore, but I'm willing to stay in it for that because we have such a sexual connection? Because mentally, if you continue to beat a person down, what does that say about you as a person and where you are? And then what does it say about the person who's constantly getting that mental beating? I'm just curious, like, how does that work? And then why does it work? And granted, people do things in their own time. So I feel like just judging only because I'm the person watching the film, I could not stay in a situation that was that toxic, because I need my guy to be supportive and to not talk about me and to say these horrible things about me when he's mad. But in return, she was throwing her jabs and digs too. She was like, she had sex with one of his friends and she stole from his mother. But she kind of, you have to watch the movie to understand that part, to see if those things really happened within their relationship, or was she saying that playing out a role. But when you watch the movie, if you haven't already, you'll understand what I mean by that comment. But yeah, so Malcolm and Marie, it was a very interesting movie. Like I said, I watched it twice. I want to know what you guys think about it. How'd you feel about the movie? I do have a couple questions that I want to ask and further the conversation about it, because it was toxic, to say the least. I don't know if that's what the writers and producers wanted us to get from that, but it's real, and like, people really go through these things, and I just want to know how much toxicity in a relationship is too much. Like, what's that one thing where it's like, okay, I can't take this anymore, or I can't be with this person anymore, and you have to get out of it? Because apparently for her, it seems like this is something she's been dealing with for some time. And then him too, because like I said, she had her own stuff going on too. But I'll definitely want to further this conversation. Malcolm and Marie, go check it out if you haven't already, so we can talk about it. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Tall Girl Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tall Girl Tuesday, the podcast. Don't forget to shop the Tall Girl Tuesday merch. The link is in my bio on all my social media platforms. Thank you for listening, and as always, I'll see you next week.